Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to the Netherlands once again, and as I've told you many a time, there's some really great craft beers coming out of the Netherlands. You know, these guys are right next to Germany and to Belgium. Quite often it's the German and Belgian beers that are known worldwide, but really the Dutch are doing some craft beers that are really, you know, world class. So if you get the chance to try some Dutch craft beer, I highly recommend that you do. You will really enjoy it. For this review we're going to have a look at a brewery who I've never tried anything from, so quite interested in this beer. We're going to go to Breda, which is a city right in the kind of south of the country, and we're doing my first ever review from Brouwerij Frontaal. So this beer is called North. It's an Imperial brown stout, the first brown stout I've ever reviewed for you on the channel actually, so it should be a really interesting one. It comes in at 8.1% ABV, and I'm told that the brown stout is kind of characterised by the use of brown malt, so I'll be really interested just to see how this one actually turns out. So looking forward to it. As I say, Dutch craft beer is really good quality, so I'm sure this one will be another really good beer. I think I bought this one at Beer Moth when I was down in Manchester actually, and I got it because, well, one, because it was Dutch, and two, because it was a style that I'd never seen before, and again it's another brewery that I've never tried. So as I say, looking forward to this beer, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one. A shout out as well to Thomas Opent, who's a new beer tuber that I've found. Guy filming beer reviews over in the Netherlands. A number of his reviews are in Dutch, but he's starting to film a few English ones now as well, so I'll put the link to his channel in the description below. Seems like quite a nice guy, but definitely give him your support if you're watching from the Netherlands. He's doing some really nice reviews, and it's a good way for me as well to keep up to date with the beer that's going on in the Netherlands. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Brouwerij Frontaal. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, like I said. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Dutch beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I can, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brouwerij Frontaal then. So Brouwerij Frontaal were founded back in 2015 by Roel Boekens, who had been a home brewer for a number of years, and he previously worked as a chef as well actually. He's quite a young guy. I think he's about the same age as me. I think he's only around 27, 28 actually. But the brewery are based in Breda, which is to the south of the Netherlands. It's kind of in the middle of Middelburg and Utrecht. I think it's quite close to Tilburg as well, as another quite well-known city that's close by. But the company was founded at a collective space for entrepreneurs. Originally they rented out 4 different units there, but I think that's been reduced now. But they still have a tasting room over there as well. But in 2016 they moved into a new site at Fabriek in the city, and it was there that they opened up a bigger tasting room, and they've also got a terrace. And in doing this, they actually increased their brewing capacity from 3,000 litres to 20,000 litres, and this is why a good part of their beer is actually being exported now as well. But they seem to have a really good reputation. They've got a whole mix of things going on there. They've got IPAs, they've got Imperial stouts. I'm sure there was a few barley wines and things like that, and 1 or 2 Scotch ales that they produced as well. So a really interesting brewery. There's quite a lot of beers listed there if you check out their rate beer profile and their Untappd profile. And like I said, I've heard some really good things about this brewery. A lot of people that have told me about this brewery have been very positive about it. So if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I definitely recommend that you do. It should be a really kind of interesting beer, this one, like I say. And as I said, this is my first ever Imperial brown stout. But that's all the information I was really able to find on the brewery. There wasn't too many articles or things like that on them, but it seemed like a really nice little operation. It is cool to see quite a young guy basically going straight out of university and starting his own brewery. Very cool. So let's leave it at that. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and you can also check out their Facebook as well and keep up to date with all the things that are going on. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So yeah, I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open up. I do quite like that, the kind of compass that's on this. That's really cool actually. So So this one's called North. I don't know if they've got beers called, I'm sure they did have some beers that were named after the other directions as well, so that's probably definitely worth checking out. But on the side here it says, if I can translate the Dutch properly, it says an Imperial brown stout gets its character from its brown malt. In the aroma there is dark roasted bready notes, and in the taste there is chocolate, coffee and a light bitter aftertaste. I think that's probably what it's going to mean. I'm using my German and my Swedish knowledge to kind of translate that. Those of you that are Dutch speakers, you can have a little look at that yourself. But it tells you the profile of the beer on the back as well. It uses mild malt, amber malt, brown malt and Carafa 1, and the hops in this beer are Brewer's Gold. So yeah, I told you lies at the start of the video. This one is 8.6%, not 8.1, so my apologies for that. So an 8.6% Imperial Brown Stout. This one was bottled on the 20th of November 2017, and it's best before... where was it? I think it said it did say 2019. Yeah, here it says best before the 20th of November 2019. So I'm kind of drinking it just when it's nearly a year old, this beer. It's not far off. In fact, no, it's probably more about 7-8 months old, this one. So that gives it a nice little bit of time to mature in the bottle. Plain bottle cap on this one, incidentally. There you can see on the back there is the Brouwerij Frontaal symbol there, just let the camera focus on that. There you go. But yeah, nicely presented beer. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Nice bit of smoky opening, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And as I say, it's quite cool to see that more and more of these Dutch breweries are starting to export their beers. Really, my first encounter with the Dutch beers was when I was over in Leiden for an astrochemistry course back in... I want to say it was 2014 actually. I was over there doing a couple of summer courses with Leiden University, and you know, there was a little shop there called De Bierwinkel, which had some really nice beers, and I brought those back and reviewed them for you on the channel, and I was really impressed with the quality of the Dutch beers. And you know, ever since I've held the Dutch craft beers in really high regards, and it's cool to see that more and more of them are starting to get out there. But you can really smell those big chocolate bready malts coming out of this one. It's almost got a little bit of a cookie kind of aroma to it as well. So as you can see with this beer, if I hold it up to the light, it's poured a really nice, very, very dark kind of chestnutty colour, I would say. It's maybe very, very... It's I think chestnut probably is a good way to describe the colour of this beer. It's not far off the same colour as Coca-Cola or something like that. You could see there was a little half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of medium tan head on this one. Probably kind of a medium beige colour to this. There's one or two little bits of sediment floating around in this one. Considering it's about 8 months old, that is understandable. If you hold it up to the light, there is a little hint of a slightly ruby edge to it, but I think it's definitely fair to say it's a very dark sort of chestnutty mahogany colour, this one. But yeah, looks very, very nice. Pretty much kind of as I would expect from a brown stout. Actually, you would expect it not to be quite as black as a regular Imperial stout, but it looks very, very nice. And as I say, the one thing I'm noticing on the malt base in this one is that they haven't used black malt or roasted malt, which is quite, you know, that's the key and thing that's missing from compared to a regular stout. So yeah, interesting. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. So yeah, definitely. It's got this big kind of bready note to it. The aroma that comes out of this beer actually, it reminds me a lot of like a dark chocolate cookie. Actually, it's got a little bit of that kind of vibe going on to it. It almost smells a little bit as well like the chocolate chips that you would use in baking. In baking, it really reminds me of that. Yeah, it's a really interesting beer. That it's almost got a little bit of a kind of cakey aroma to it as well. There's definitely some nutty character to this one too, especially when you sugar it up. You do get a little bit of a kind of nutty note coming out of this one. It's a really, the aroma in this beer is really interesting. A lot of caramel. I don't know if there's treacle in this one. It's the brown sugars are definitely more sweet rather than anything else. It's not quite got that sort of darker brown sugar to it, but it's quite sweet. There's a toasted element to it, as I say, some nutty notes coming out, a little bit of a cakey flavour to this one as well. And there's a wee tiny little bit. I'd say there's maybe even a little touch of woody note to this one as well. You can smell it. It almost has a little bit of a slightly smoky quality to it. It's not quite meaty, but it's sort of getting there, if that makes sense. And it's not peaty either, but there is something that kind of reminds you a little bit of the smoke beers, to be honest, with this one, which is quite interesting. But definitely some bready and sort of nutty qualities to this one. That's what's really kind of forming the basis of this beer. There's a little bit of an earthy hop to it, and you can smell there is a little touch of red fruit in there too. In terms of the fruity notes, I would say figs, probably, definitely a little bit of figgy quality to it, or maybe a kind of candied red fruit more than anything. But it does smell really, really nice. So take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer. But let's have a taste of this beer then. So this one is the North, an Imperial Brown Stout at 8.6% from Brouwerij Frontaal in Breda in the south of the Netherlands. I believe it's Noord-Brabant actually, that this beer, the county that this beer's from. So let's have a taste of this one then. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. I would say compared to the aroma, it does taste a little bit different. You know, I can see why they're saying that you can taste the coffee in this. That'll be the carafa malt that's given it that. That gives it that really sort of high cocoa thing. The interesting thing about this beer is that you don't really get chocolate in the aroma, but there's a good bit of that chocolate and coffee note. So this beer really does smell quite different compared to how it tastes, if that makes sense. But it's really pretty good. I do like that actually. I mean, as I say, this is my first Imperial Brown Stout, but on the basis of this one, I do quite like the principle of it. So yeah, thumbs up to Brouwerij Frontaal for this one. So let's think about this a little bit more. So with this one, it's interesting, that sort of bready quality, that kind of blankets the middle of your palate. It's kind of a brown bready note that comes out with this one. But then, on top of that, it's almost like you've just got a kind of coffee-ish, it's almost like you've just rolled coffee over the middle of your palate there. The coffee, that sort of bready note that kind of forms the linchpin of the beer, it's almost just like it's kind of coffee infused, if that makes sense. There is almost a little bit of a slightly cakey feel to this beer as well. Right towards the middle of the palate you can pick out a little bit of that cakey note. So, you know, as I say, you've got that bready blanket. If you just go in from the sides of the palate a little bit, that's where you get the kind of coffee smoothness, and you can feel that going right over the bread in the middle of your palate, and then you've just got this little bit of cakey aroma sitting right in the middle of your palate at the back. As you come further forward towards the front of the tongue, there's a little bit of a nutty flavour comes out as you go further into the aftertaste, and maybe even if you go further and further into the aftertaste, it kind of evolves a little bit into a very slightly woody flavour. But for me, I'd say more a nutty note. The flavour really is dominated by the kind of coffee flavours, I would say, which is quite interesting. At the start, you do get a good bit of the caramel brown sugar, and I would say the brown sugars that are coming out of this beer, they are quite sweet. They're definitely leaning towards the caramel toffee side of things rather than the darker treacle. And for me, they're actually, it's interesting because the sort of toffee flavours are actually coming out more for me towards the back sides of the palate. There's a little bit of it near the nutty flavours at the front as well, but it's kind of the caramel flavours are coming out in quite unusual places, because normally I've always found the caramel flavour comes out in the centre of the palate when it comes to these beers, but not in this one. For me, it comes out towards the sides of the palate, which is really quite interesting actually. I've never had a beer that's done that before. But yeah, I think this beer, I think in fairness, this is one where it really takes your mouth a little while to adjust it, because now I'm starting to get sort of chocolate in the middle of my palate there, and I would say it's kind of a mid-level cocoa chocolate. This one, it's not such a high cocoa chocolate. It does have an element of a kind of milkiness to it, which is quite interesting. I can't remember the percentage. You know, I'm maybe guessing, but I would say roughly around like a 60% cocoa, maybe 70% a push sort of chocolate. It has, as I say, it has an element of milk chocolate to it, but it does have a little touch of that kind of darker quality to it. But the malt base in this beer really is quite interesting. I'm probably lingering on it a little bit more because it's a style of beer that I've not tried before. So really cool, actually. It's cool that after, you know, near 1,300 odd beer reviews, you're still finding things that you've never really come across before. On the hoppy side of this beer then, back corners of the palate, a good earthy presence there. It's got a little bit of bitterness. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, the bitterness dies away a little bit, but you can feel that nice earthy presence there. At the front corner of the palate, there's maybe a tiny little touch of a floral note, but round the very front curve of the tongue, it is a little bit grassy as well. And behind that front curve of the palate, that's where you get the little oily bubble where those fruity esters start to come out of the beer. But yeah, it's really nice how this beer goes together. I really like everything that's kind of that's going together with this beer. So for me, the fruity side of this one then, it's mainly sort of figgy. It's just a little light touch of a red fruit in the beginning. It's got a little bit of sharpness to it, like a slight raisiny sharpness, but then it just smooths out, and as you go further into the aftertaste, it does go a little bit more towards that figgy kind of slightly candied red fruit, sort of candied strawberry type flavour, and you know that lingers a little bit into the aftertaste, but then the aftertaste is kind of dominated by the sort of coffee notes and a bit of the earthy hop, and some, you know, a little touch of the kind of chocolate and bready character lingers there, but mainly it's the coffee and the earthy hops that linger into the aftertaste too. But overall, it is a really quite nice beer, this. I'm glad I got to try a brown stout for the first time. I'll need to try and seek out a few more of these, because it definitely is something that's interesting me. I do love a good imperial stout, but I love brown ales as well, and to have a kind of hybrid style like this is really interesting. In terms of the mouthfeel then, mid-bodied beer, in fact no, sorry, full-bodied beer, definitely a full-bodied beer. Carbonation is quite smooth on this one. It's got quite an oily mouthfeel, this one, more than anything. Yeah, nice big oily mouthfeel. Good balance in the malt base between sweetness and roastiness. It is very, very well balanced, that. The hoppy side of things, there is a good little bit of bitterness to this beer. It's saying it's 47 IBUs on the back of the palate. I think I would have guessed around 50ish with this one, just because of the way the coffee bitterness kind of is coming out of this one. The coffee adds a good bit to it, and then there's that little bit of juicy, fruity quality in there as well. But overall, a really nice beer, this one. So thumbs up to the guys at Brouwerij Frontaal for this. They've produced a really interesting beer, and like I say, this is a style that I definitely need to seek out more. So, you know, have a go at this beer. As I say, Brouwerij Frontaal have done, you know, a lot of different beer styles from their rate beer site. This was the first time I was trying one, and you know, I am pretty impressed with this. So I will need to see if I can get a hold of a few of their other beers. But I don't come across Frontaal that often. I've not seen too much of them. So, but hopefully I can get across, find some of their beers at some point fairly soon. But really impressed with this, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So let's leave it at that. So until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij Frontaal as well. Do give me some other Dutch beer recommendations. Make sure you check out Thomas as well. He's just kind of starting up his channel, but as I say, he reviews a lot of Dutch beer. I don't get to review all that many of them, so if you're particularly interested, check out his channel. The link's in the description below. But thank you again for watching. This was the North and 8.6% Imperial Brown Stout from Brouwerij Frontaal in Breda in the south part of the Netherlands. So until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Proost.